Hi, I'm Andrew Allspall.
I'm Matthew Asner.
And Matt had the idea that we kind of just start a podcast because we were talking about deep stuff that shouldn't be undocumented. I was talking about how contemporary nihilism affects millennial humor and comedy and how it's shown through media.
Before we get into that, dumb down that for everyone who doesn't understand any of those big words.
Okay, so nihilism is the rejection of all religious and moral principles, often in the belief that life is meaningless. And that is basically came about by an author named Friedrich Nietzsche, and he basically talks really deeply in a book that he wrote that I can't remember because I'm a high school grad who doesn't know goddamn shit about nihilism. Essentially, he was the one who said God is dead and we have killed him, which is actually often misinterpreted, I hear. There's also like a really big, like, what I'm talking about is like my big takeaway and interpretation of what Wisecrack on YouTube has been talking about with Rick and Morty and BoJack Horseman, because I love those shows. But yeah, nihilism essentially creates this idea that instead of being created for a purpose, the purpose is made because of us. Like, things exist because we have a specific purpose in mind for that being created, but we, on the other hand, create our own purpose in life.
Okay, so we talked about this a little bit before we
Yeah.
started, so basically, like, what I'm getting from that, and I know you just like gave me the definition, but like the way that I hear that is like life is like a blank canvas, and like
Yeah.
things that exist, like we label them and we give them like a description that like we come up for them, kind of like
Yeah. You're on the right track. It's essentially, as we observe the universe, we observe big empty masses of space and things that will live and that will die, and how things that die is pretty much inevitable. Like, death is everywhere, and death is the only thing that is certain and constant. And yeah, like, that is basically the essence, or that is basically the feel of nihilism. Things die and have no purpose and have no sense in being in existence for any reason, and only exist, and we give them reason. Like, we determine reason for them.
like that. The amount of truth in there like actually like freaks me out. Like, we are born with like literally nothing set for us until
Exactly.
we make our own goals.
Exactly. And I like how you said goals, because really, like, a lot of how you set up your own purpose is to create your own goals, create your own purpose. Some people do it with religion, and they follow a god, and they follow what Jesus does, and like, their idols kind of dictate their morals in some cases.
Yeah, and that to them gives them purpose.
Yes.
Yeah.
Imagine a dog thinking these thoughts. Like, holy shit, I'm going to die. Like, imagine how depressing that is. This is
That's
also
actually so sad.
I
Because it's like
know.
the majority. I don't know if it's the majority. Don't quote me on that. Like, or like owned by like pet owners and just like enslaved on this earth.
Yeah, exactly.
That was such a big shift in
Yeah.
topics.
Anyways, back to millennial humor. Humor that appeals to us as, I think it's like 14 to 23-year-olds right now. It's 2018. Like Adult Swim, for example, they kind of come up and mass produce shows like Loiter Squad, shows like Eric Andre, and stuff like that along those lines that have nothing to do with actual factual reality and nothing to do with actual comedy, except for the fact that they are ironic in the sense of human nature. Like, essentially, we have the driving force of what makes things funny is a big part irony. Like, things that shouldn't happen that happen anyways. And actually happen in spite of what it should be in opposed to it, if that makes sense. That's a big logic sentence.
Yeah, it was a big old logic sentence.
Anyways, it's like the driving force is irony, so that the things that we find funny usually come from, in a millennial sense, in a more newer sense, is things that usually aren't supposed to happen. So like humans at work doing not work things, like in the office.
Mm-hmm.
How it's just a bunch of stuff that you'd never ever see at work, and it's awkward and not what a show is really supposed to be, especially a reality show. And it just kind of makes fun of the whole scheme of having an office job and having a reality show at the same time, because most of us know what those two are. And basically making fun of that is what gives it humor to us millennials and why it's so successful. And basically, like, nihilism plays a part in this because it's almost become a cultural standard to believe in God and to be Christian. Like, it's actually recently become not the majority of humans on Earth to be Christian.
Not the majority.
Yeah, like less than 50% of the world. And it's still in the lead for popularity.
Oh.
But like, less than 50%. But like how Jesus has demonstrated, he was counterculturalist. Like, in a lot of ways, he went against the grain of what normal people would do in his time, and people saw this and they were like, whoa, that's crazy, that's good, I'm gonna follow you. And he got followers that way on Instagram. Hate myself for saying that.
That guy.
Yeah. But yeah, Jesus went against the grain a lot in his teachings and basically told people to do what the right thing is in God's eyes, which is something that a lot of people were lacking in. And that has become so popular that we now take it as an irony to not be like that. Things like Satanist music or just anti-religious, like tattoos, or like themes in music or shows, they're really popular among millennials because they are so like against what the norm is. That creates irony.
Yeah.
And that creates appeal to people, really.
People that are specifically into that.
Yeah. And yeah, it's really crazy because nihilism creates the fact that, hey, we're not supposed to exist. This is kind of becoming a known thing, that people are actually becoming less a part of Christianity and less a part of religion and kind of go on their own paths. And the media is aware of this, and shows like or networks like Adult Swim and big stars, big celebrities kind of like use this to their advantage to appeal to millennials.
Never thought about it like that. Jeez.
That's basically my spiel on it.
This is a nihilism is like kind of like a belief thing, right? Like, do you like?
Somewhat, yeah. Think of it as like anti-belief. Like, we're trying so hard to make it known that we don't believe in anything. Which, disclaimer, me and Matt are pretty strong, faithful Christians.
Yeah. Okay. So obviously Christianity. Me and him are both Christians. That's something that gives us purpose. But what else? What gives you purpose? What would you say?
Right.
Gives you purpose, like right now?
Like me personally?
Yeah, sure. You don't have to like go into
Okay.
too deep detail.
Something that would give me purpose is like the thirst to experience life. Like, I'm 18, the world's my oyster, and there's so much of life that I haven't experienced yet. I think that would be a driving force to me. And really, a lot of purpose for most people can be drawn from things that they give themselves, but mainly, more in detail of that, it can be like things that make us happy, like drugs and sex and religion and, you know, other things that actually make us feel not so empty, void, universe is pointless. And yeah, that's, to answer that question, that's what gives people purpose, is what they want, their desires.
So bottom line, like for you personally, it's just wanting to experience just things.
I guess experience, and most of my life I've kind of like lived to please my parents and be good in their eyes, which you shouldn't be confined to.
That's a whole topic I want to talk about like some other time, but
No, man, let's bring it up.
I want to talk about what gives me purpose.
Okay.
Which I thought about was like
Yeah.
super selfish.
Okay.
Um,
No, you're fine.
I thought about it and like I'm mostly driven by envy
Envy.
and like
Wow.
seeing what other people have and just making all of that my goal.
You sinful, sinful person.
Hey man, but I'm being honest here. Like
Yeah, man.
even like Christianity too. Like when I see people like so like faithful and like they can like actually go to God when they're like lonely and stuff
Yeah.
and like be content with that.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do that, and I wish I could.
Yeah.
I know that's a bad thing, but
It's okay.
just being honest here.
Acceptance is the first step towards change.
Yeah.
I'm a strong believer in that. Like, I feel this. I feel you. I feel where you're coming from. Because, yeah, it is, like, a world that you want. Like, some people are living their lives better and probably more efficiently, and it's just something you really desire to be better. Because, of course, most people have a pursuit of being better or being more happy or, you know. But anyways, we were talking about, I wanted to re-bring up the point of you should never, like, be a slave to your parents, or
I was gonna word it just like that too. Being a slave to your parents for basically 18 years of your life. Like, I think it's like crazy that we don't have a choice, and like, if we don't like comply, is that the right word? Comply to like being their slaves.
yeah,
Like
that's
you can.
that's the right wording, but
Like, there's consequences if you don't.
that is somewhat bullshit, but in, like, I see your point, I respect it, but like, I really honestly believe that you do have choice in what direction your life goes. Like, there's so many times where you can go against the grain of that your parents set for you,
Mhm.
and actually piss them off and go your own way. Especially when you're 18, then you're no longer dependent.
Yeah, you can do
under
whatever you
them.
want. Like when you're 18, but I'm talking about like I'm talking about like the parents that like actually like call child services to like
Yeah.
fix you or something, or like send you off.
Yeah.
It's like a camp.
Even still, there, like, I don't know. Can you really like ask Child Protective Services to be like, "Hey, I don't like my family. Give me a new one."
No.
No, I didn't think so. Yeah. Yeah, it is really weird how like your parents are the ones who literally teach you how to live until you're able to do that yourself.
By the time that we learn to live on our own, everything that we know, like at that point, is based on how we were raised,
Yeah.
and like, I don't know how to feel about that.
It's scary.
It's actually based on how, like, who raised you, and how they raised you, and how they grew up too.
Exactly.
It's like a whole chain reaction.
And that's what really shapes a lot of these generations and actually mutations of culture. Bringing it back to the millennials, it's really brought up by the generation before us of how our values lie. Like, really, our parents, most likely, like, some of them had, well, there's a huge variance in what they could have done, but like a lot of them probably haven't, for example, they haven't gone to college and have kind of set a life that's mediocre in comparison to a life if they had gone to college. So that kind of sets the bar for their parents, or for our parents, and that makes them be like, oh yeah, let's go to college, let's get that done. Oh, some of us didn't make it in there, or didn't even like finish. I'm gonna make sure my kids do better by instilling them that college is important. And
That's kind of like brainwash.
exactly, it is brainwash.
Right.
But also at the same time, where would we be without the knowledge of other people's failures as a species? Like, even like household pets, even like cats, for example, they have like a natural sense of balance to land on their feet, right? They've probably developed that over such long periods of
Fucking up their balance.
yeah, like imagine early big ol' cats, early jaguars in development of evolution, and how they would like chill in the trees, and then they fall and die, and over time and time, they genetically get better.
And that, my friends, is what we call adaptation.
Exactly. It is cultural adaptation that is what drives our parents to be so controlling or not controlling over our set morals.
That's such a good comparison. I like that.
Thank
because
you.
it like directly correlates.
Cultural adaptation. I literally just made that up.
That's so true though.
True. True, man. Leafy dancing on the grave of the word literally.
Literally.
Literally. So what's on your noggin?
I'm just thinking about how I want to raise my kids. Like,
Already thinking that far in the head?
yeah, because like thinking about how I was raised.
Yeah.
I was like raised with like. I mean, I'm not gonna bring race into this, but like.
Bring race into it. What are you,
Bring
Matt?
race into it.
What are you, black?
I'm.
People don't know yet.
I am Moroccan. No, I'm Asian, Filipino. I was raised to I was taught that good grades equal no beatings and no screamings and no lectures, and that kind of made me fear my own parents when I was younger,
Mm.
and I think that affected me emotionally. And like in the long run, and like I kind of have like immunity to it now. That like I just don't
Immunity?
I don't give a fuck about what they say.
Wow.
And I feel like if they weren't okay, I feel like I'm just throwing shade at this point, but like I feel like I wouldn't scare my children into believing what I think they should like achieve,
Yeah,
you know?
that's pretty good. And that's also like what I was talking about, like cultural adaptation. You see the flaws that your parents have done, and you try to avoid that in the generation that you will bring. My parents actually, like, they've held their tongue and held their hands behind their backs a while, like a lot more than the usual parents. Like I still got some beatings,
Yeah.
but really they tried to leave me to have a really open-ended life. Here I am, like, searching college courses and figuring out what I'm about to do for a living, and my dad is like being so like controlling over that, or not controlling really, but like just his guidelines are pretty,
Strict.
yeah, pretty strong.
Like even me saying that, like I wouldn't scare my children into like believing what they should achieve and stuff, like that also brings in the fact that they do have to be disciplined,
Yeah,
but not wanting to scare them at the same time
exactly.
is so hard.
It seems so weird because like this adaptation thing, we have been raising kids, we have been observing other species and how they do it, and we've done like studies. We have the power to do studies on these things, and it's so much. It seems like there's been so much time that we could have been learning the right way to raise your kids, but literally at the same time there is no right way of raising a kid.
Yeah.
Like, it's so heavily dependent and catastrophically different with every single change you make. And that brings a lot of stress into being a parent. Not that we would know at all.
I really like the idea of you making up that cultural adaptation thing, because like
Same.
that made so much sense. I don't want to just phrase, but are we done with that topic?
No.
Okay, because I have something else to like kind of branch off of that, but you go ahead and.
Okay. Well, something else from Wisecrack that they've really hinted on. Also, you should like really watch their videos on Rick and Morty and BoJack Horseman and the differences between it. And Bo Burnham, if you're really into that, you know who that is. He kind of like brings up this one point that like a difference. You can deal with this acceptance of the end means nothing, the universe and you in it means nothing, by in three ways. You can either go back to the way you used to live your life as you would with your own set values and everything. You could also kill yourself in the face of everything is pointless, and you don't want to serve a pointless purpose in a pointless universe. And you could also say, no, universe, you don't tell me how to live my life. I choose my life. And be happy. Be happy anyways.
Be happy, be free.
Yep. What was the thing you were trying to branch off onto?
Just about the kids and adaptation. I'd like to think of it as like what's the opposite of evolution? de-evolution, and how I feel like the worst thing that's happening to us, even though I love it so much, is the internet.
Yes.
The internet is poisoning
Oh my gosh.
the newest generations. It's getting worse and
Poison.
worse. Intoxicating them. Like,
Let's hear some backups to these points.
little kids praising, like,
Fortnite dances.
like idols like Logan Paul, and like taking everything they say as if they were like God.
These little suburban white kids
Yeah.
that are getting ruined. Oh God,
Thinking
no.
that, like, doing, like, having them watch like vlogs and stuff of like Logan Paul, Jake Paul, doing like the stupidest things, like recording dead bodies in forests and stuff. Like, that's the type of stuff that kids are watching. Like, children are watching, like, teenagers speaking over dead bodies in a forest.
It seems so much like the internet has its own, like, evolution rate that it is, like, super fast. Like, so many memes can be created and destroyed on there. So many cultures can be, like, exploited through the internet and on the internet. Like, things that only exist on the internet. Like, in a really cheap way, I can say 4chan kind of brings up a ton of people. Like in early days, they would make fun of My Little Pony, and the main general users of 4chan, like old, maybe 30-plus-year-old men, would find kind of like entertainment in actually watching My Little Pony as a byproduct of making fun of it and using it as a joke. Like, there's culture on the internet that, yeah, is really unpredictable and crazy for our kids.
Yes.
But yeah, kids watching that stuff, it's kind of like putting its own scare on them, like what our parents do. How they kind of like scare us away from making bad decisions. The internet is full of opportunity.
It's full of so many, like, pros and cons, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, mostly I see cons, just because of annoying little kids.
Yeah.
I mean, the internet's, like, definitely helping, like,
Communication.
kids. Yeah, I mean, communication too, but, like, affecting the kids. I feel like the internet is making them, like, learn faster too. Like, it sounds so gay when I say, but, like, apps. Like, using, like, educational apps.
Like ABC Mouse.
abcmouse.com.
Edmodo.
Not sponsored. Like, it gives them a lot more tools. But who's on the internet to, like, actually learn? Like, kids want entertainment.
The kids who are disciplined by their parents
That's true.
to go on the internet and go on ABC Mouse. But yeah, I also feel like the internet is, like, becoming a norm to some people, or to the newest generation that's coming up. Like, really, it's kind of like books in 1940s. Like, kids would read books and not really go play outside a lot, and parents would see this. They'd be like, huh, why are they reading all the time? They should be doing other stuff. And Vsauce actually talks a lot more in depth with his video, What is Cool? And he kind of, like, talks about, I'm trying to talk about, like, when parents would see their kids reading books, they'd be like, oh, they're reading books all the time. They should be out playing outside. Where books kind of then in that generation became the norm. And then people need more satisfaction from that. People need, or not satisfaction, need more stimulants in their brain to keep them occupied and keep them mentally busy than that. So things that become a norm in your childhood, like maybe a very easy tool, like, or maybe just something else you just brush off. And I say like tool as in like, if you're raised around internet, you're probably going to be internet savvy.
Yeah.
And you may score a job more easily if you're internet savvy, dealing with things that the internet provides, like coding or network security.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, there is a lot of pros and cons to the internet. I've actually been thinking, like, oh my gosh, this like made me think so hard. I was talking to my coworker about this, and he was getting all weirded out, and he's like, "What the hell are you talking about? This sounds so depressing." And I'm like, "I am depressed," and like,
Jeez.
side note right there. And then like,
This is a call for help.
wubble-dub-dub. Anyways, my coworker kind of said it to this other dude, this driver, because I work at Pizza Hut. He said it to this driver, and he was like, "Man, why are you thinking about that stuff? You should, like, be thinking of, like, girls or guys or whatever you're into while you're young.
Whatever you're into.
Or you'll end up like some old guy balding in his basement, just scratching his head at how he wasted his life away." And that really is the plain and short of it. If you keep thinking that the world is pointless, then you're gonna literally have no motivation to make any point of it. And that is heartbreaking. That is a horrible way to live your life. And one of the things in Rick and Morty that Rick says, when he was talking about the like interdimensional vastness and how everything doesn't matter, he advised Morty to not think about it. That is the answer. Don't think about it, and then your mind remains sane. You go back to blue pill, you go back to the regular way you live your life with your own set morals and values. But nihilism exists, and it's a real thing that people go through and take comfort in.
Unless you don't think about it. Okay.
Actually, Veritasium, this physics YouTuber dude, this physics major, he makes YouTube videos. He has this one video called Our Greatest Delusion, and in it he talks about how we think of ourselves as everlasting, and we are so important, and we are so big to the world, and we make such an impact and a difference. And everything that we do creates the stress of, like, holding on to what we do. You know what I'm saying? Like, every single action we do, because, you know, we're made up of our actions. They hold so much weight in who we are in the world, which isn't the case at all. Like, so much of what we do in the dark will come to the light, but there is so much that the sun casts light over. And there's so much that we can do that will go, like, uncharted, unnoticed, and often will not really matter in the grand scheme of things. And in general, nothing will matter in the grand scheme of things. But anyway.
In the absolute end, no matter, like, who you are, no matter what you did, nothing will matter.
Exactly.
It's cool to think that, like, the thing to oppose, like, nihilism is just finding happiness. Technically,
that's a cool sentence. That's a cool point. Nihilism is the opposite of happiness.
Because if you're just, I feel Yeah.
We are evil. Think about this. Think. Die. Be sad. Everything will die. There is no God.
It's just be happy, dude. It's like what?
Thanks, Mr. Hippie Man.
Mr. Hippie Man, that's
Just be happy, man. That's all you need. It's happiness. Happiness isn't something you can just do. It's something that happens to you.
that a statement or a quote?
That's the actual point that I'm making.
Okay. I was like still quoting.
It's probably a quote somewhere. I am also made up of all the information that I have been exposed to.
That's very true. So am I.
And really, something about growing up is really relying on your own judgment of what is bullshit and not. When you're presented with things in the world, you have to really think on your feet and be like, yeah, that doesn't make sense. Or, yeah, that's actually really truthful and can be backed up.
With that in mind, that like makes me think like, what if us for like believing in religion are like more exposed to like we're like weaker in that field, like for believing something like that.
Because we have faith, are you saying because we have faith, our judgment is skewed?
Essentially,
We may never know.
we
know
may
why?
never know. That's the thing.
Because we have faith.
Yeah, that's
Let's just rid ourselves of God. There's actually this back to what I was like kind of stating. Our own judgment is a really powerful tool that we use in everyday life. It is so important that we teach this to our kids, especially when they go on the internet.
yeah.
How to link those two up. But anyways, I was trying to say something else, but I forgot. I don't know. I think like really kind of comes from what we are brought up to believe.
It all just comes back to how we were raised.
Exactly.
If we were raised like God is real,
God is good
God is good.
if he is real.
God is good if he's real. Like that's what we're gonna believe. We're gonna have the default mindset of there's a God. By the time we can think for ourselves.
I think that's important to impose on your kids.
I feel like saying that there's a God is like a good way to like give a kid a starting off purpose, kind of. You know, something to start off with. Like, I want to be a good person because that's what God wants me to do.
Yeah,
It's like,
that's good.
yeah,
I was kind of raised up to be like, I want to be a good person, or else I get the beatings.
yeah.
Yeah, it's scary, and how much variance we have. Oh, especially like having the power. You know what's really scary in being a parent? Consciously knowing that you have power over someone else's life. I was thinking about this earlier today. Like, you literally own someone.
Yeah.
That's crazy. How you can literally just own someone, own a
Yeah, you
whole
just own
little
this-
person.
This toddler that's eventually gonna grow into like its own thing, and that you still own it.
Yeah.
Just a little bit less.
I'm sorry, Mom.
It's just like, I like the fact that us as humans make each other as a product of like sex.
That is a really cool thing, because like most of us, like most species, are driven by sex to reproduce, to continue on themselves, which is really like purpose in itself. And it's so crazy how we have overpopulated the earth so much to the point where not having sex right now would probably be more beneficial
Yeah.
to the earth, to the health of the earth that we display in our own actions. Because we so dearly love the earth.
Good one. Very good.
Gosh, it's got depressing.
One. It got really depressing.
I'm a depressing person, Matt.
I'm so sorry.
That's why I can't hang around myself. That's why I can't work at freaking Pizza Hut, throwing toppings on pizzas all alone with my thoughts. Or else I think about nihilism, and then I spew out my funny little monologues to my coworkers, and they grow a strong sense of worry for me, even though they shouldn't, because that's like completely not what you're supposed to do at work.
Yeah.
That's what makes me funny. I'm funny, Matt. Fuck you.
Whoa. Okay, you're funny, dude. GG.
GG.
Good talk. So that's gonna be the end of our.
Okay. Thank you for listening.